All right, here we go. Good afternoon, Rotarians. Great turnout today. Glad you found the location, and if you weren't here last week for the formal announcement, this is our permanent location. Welcome. My name is David Sager. I'm your Rotary president until June this year. And in the Rotary Club of Fayetteville, this 104-year-old prestigious club, let's say the four-way test of what we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it very small? All right, you can have a seat. Bill Burrows.
Hey, joining me in singing America. My country is the free land of liberty, of the land where
The Pledge of Allegiance. All rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty for all.
Okay, yeah, come in, be seated. You know, we're going to have a little Texas summer, they say, this weekend. So let's celebrate that. You know, in the good old summertime, in the good old summertime, we run the gate, let your baby on. I hold her as people mine. And that's a very good song that leads my to sing a good old song. You.
All right, Harrison Pittman, Sergeant at Arms.
Now, the microphone.
How was everybody Chuck over I smell it here. All right, let's go through visiting Rotary. Alan Wilburn. It's a good thing Tim Hudson is here because our jokes today are Tim Hudson's fault. Tim Hudson, both from Northside, aka Dark Side. Members with guests, Mark Wilkins.
Yeah, I'm pleased to share Rotary with our staff.
Smith, where are you at?
Yeah, it's my guest today, the old county attorney. I think the first county attorney in this county is a full-time county attorney, and he started as part-time as county attorney. He was a deputy prosecutor for me before that, back in the long time for the club, and I forgot to tell George, you know, we're getting older, we get our exercise by jumping in the club, getting I wanted George to come enjoy Rotary.
Please help me welcome my friend Jackie Leffler. Jackie is originally from Jersey, and she was a longtime Rotarian in Jersey and the president and the father herself.
Steve Litzinger is your guest.
Really pleased today to share Rotary with my good friend Nika Wakeson and her husband Bill. Bill is recently retired. He worked many years, with P&G and then, founded a number of companies, in the area and retired. And, Nika, many of you may know, been a member of the Fayetteville School Board, for many years, served as president. And, I know they're both in today's conference. I guess.
There's a guess.
Is an associate attorney at the Rotary. And I think this might be the last week I agree for us yet.
Yeah, the risky, but. How come Chuck never brings guests? So since I missed it a week, as you know, these come straight from the vineyards of Fresno County Farm Bureau, Skip to me like cheap, nasty bottle of wine. Buffalo and Blaine Jacob, or Ryan Jacobs, Fresno County Farm Bureau, were on these, that always. Did Adam and Eve ever have a date? No, they had an apple. Now you tell me it's equality. What does a painter tell his girlfriend? I love you with all my heart. It's okay. What did the paperclip say to the magnet? That's a good job. That's it. That probably should be the one. I find you very attractive. Why did the fall get bad grades? That's a good superintendent. Why did the fall get bad grades? It was too dense. What did he plan say there? Say there. Fix the company. Where's the plan?
We showed it at the pay ticket. We
Where
have to pay the royals outright. But to your story's point, it's
All
about.
right, please don't be your tradition.
But I think on the front end, we could
With our
say.
friends
we're gonna
beside
have
us,
an
no person
experience
beneath
here.
us,
If somebody
the bonds
wants
of
to
Rotary
have a
between
show,
us.
you know, we're gonna have. So I think it's a
For us, and no
conversation.
tax beyond us. Thirst for knowledge and a dream of a polio-free world. We are thankful for our Rotary friends and the meal that we are about to share. Amen.
Thank you, Harrison. All right, we're in a new month, so new month comes. And I looked and I couldn't believe it. It's been a year and a half since we've supported the Ronald McDonald House with our Buck Cup donations. So here we go. So there's a QR code and we'll have this in the weekly newsletter. Okay, here's an announcement. Winter cap, gloves and scarf drive for Fayetteville High School students. Is this needed? Absolutely, this is needed. We have it from the authority right here. So.
There's
you
a
want to talk
notice
about this,
on
or-
every page for our guys, not every other page for our guys. There's says something to do, try to do things, not. For such changes. That needs to be said.
This is for high school students, so you need to buy adult size, you know, either one, they'll fit for girls or boys, so you do need adult size, because it's gonna be very. Well, give me the money.
So clothes donation, or money donation for adult size, these are young adults, adult size clothing. Caps, gloves and scarves. All right, and this is all in the newsletter. There's Jimmy's phone number and email. Thank you, Jimmy. Just a reminder, you've got an email since last meeting for your monthly and quarterly dues. Harrison and I can help you with that if you have any questions. Pickleball. We'll keep reminding you, it's coming. April 18th, be here before you know it. Fayetteville Athletic Club. Sponsorship levels and amounts are right here. Grand Slam $2,000, Smasher $1,000, Pickler $500, for a Dinker for $250. And we're gonna keep talking about this, because this is important. The Fayetteville Rotary Foundation monthly giving, you can sign up, you can give online, it can be automated. Must be in order to participate in the drawing at a new meeting like this. The winner will select a local nonprofit to which the Rotary Club Foundation will give $1,000 in that member's name. Sign up, it's just $10. It goes to a great cause, obviously a good cause because you're choosing it. Speaking of great causes, we're back in the scholarship business. I couldn't be more excited. And as an honorary member of the Eblou family, and having been inducted to the club directly under Roy Ron, one of the last members that he brought into this club through under Robert Cunningham's presidency. So $2,000 scholarships to be applied towards tuition, books, and fees. And those scholarships are good at the University of Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas Community College, or NTI. And the application link is in your web. Okay, so Linda's not doing the introduction today, but she is responsible for our guest. I think Harrison is going to come up and make an introduction today for our guest speaker.
Be nervous. All right.
You get asked to do, and you don't say no. So I'm very pleased to help introduce Dr. John Walter today. The biography is a link. You can read all about the amazing things in his background. I'm gonna try to tell you three things that you might want to hear. Oh, that's neutral though. That's fun. Here's one. Last year, he participated in a fashion contest, fashion show, at OUT, which is School of Innovation here in Fayetteville School District. And pretty much students will pick what the costume has to be. They selected Snoop Dogg. He came out in fur coat and Snoop Dogg. So there's other superintendents across the country, it's your move. Something else you may know that most of these sergeants today are going to the various schools and just dropped in classrooms and teachers and just to see how things are going. Just one-on-one inspection of how things are going. And then finally, he shares a birthday with our Rotary Club, March the 1st. So he's going to imagine, you'll turn 50 the day that our club turns 105 years old. So how about that? There's your three things. Someone has to tell us the rest of it. What's that?
Thank you very much, sir. Well, that was a lot less painful than I expected. So I appreciate that. I'm just glad it wasn't Judge Street that was announcing it, because who knows what would have happened. But no, I'm excited to be here today. My name is John Moultrie. If you don't know me, I am a proud member of this Rotary Club. I have to admit, I haven't been here as frequently as I should. We've had a little bit going on. We're going to get to talk about some of those things today. But one thing about this new spot is it's going to be a little bit harder for you to sneak out if you don't like the presentation. So we'll all see it. So just keep that in mind. All right. Well, hey, we're going to jump right in. I am going to try to go through somewhat quickly so that we can open it up for questions at the end. We do have a couple board members that are here today. We already mentioned Nika Waithman, who is our immediate past president. And then Tim Hudson, who's one of the visiting Rotarians, you know, from the dark side, is he's our current president and our longest serving board member. And we appreciate both of them being here. And I appreciate their support during my time here in Fayetteville. This is my 3rd year in Fayetteville Public Schools, my 29th year in education. And it's been an absolute pleasure to be here as a part of the community. And I'm excited to be here, hopefully for several more years, as long as the board will keep bringing me back. So let's just jump right in. I'm going to start with, for the first time ever, Arkansas assigned letter grades to school districts this year. For quite a while, they've assigned letter grades to individual schools, and they still do that. But districts now receive a letter grade. And we're happy. We were happy to announce that Fayetteville received an A letter grade,
What, only 8% of school districts in Arkansas received an A, and we are fortunate to be one of those. So we're very excited, but also the pressure's on to maintain it, right? And so, but we're very proud of that. This is how our schools shook out. So we have 16 schools that received letter grades. We had 9 A's, 6 B's, and 1 C. Now that 1 C was 0.2 of a point from a B. That's how close they were. There's no rounding up, all right? So, but they are extremely motivated to get to that B. I will point out, it is our, John L. Colbert is our highest poverty middle school currently. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit. We're very proud of our districts. Of the 6 B's we had, 3 of them were super close within just a couple points of being A's. So we feel like we're on the right track and very excited about the work our teachers, staff, and administrators are doing. This is our enrollment. It's always like to share this. So here's Fayetteville. We're just over 10,000. And you know, when I first got here, and we still get this question a lot. People will often say, when are you going to do 2 high schools like the other districts, right? But I think it's important to note when you look at this, you know, we're half the size of Bentonville and Springdale. You know, Rogers is 1.5 times their size, Little Rock about double us. So, you know, you got to keep that in mind. Like we have half the high school students that other people have. But we do have some things in the work around high school that we'll talk about here in a minute. And we always like to give the high school enrollment, you know, because again, along with that, if that high school is just too big, and if you have a large high school, this is one of the larger ones in the state. This is our enrollment is just over 2,500. And then you'll notice actually both Bentonville high schools are now larger than us. Each one is larger than us. With Bentonville High being the largest, you know, starting to push 4,000. They're expecting Bentonville West to be over 3,000 here pretty soon. And then when you go on across, I'll point out Springdale. You'll notice both the Springdale's high schools are just a few hundred kids less than us. But what's of note is Springdale doesn't have 9th graders at their high school. So that's just 10 through 12. So if they did have 9th graders, they would both be around 3,000. So that just kind of gives you some context when we talk about size of our high school compared to others. If we were to split, we'd have 2 high schools of about 1,300, which, hey, that's a good size. Definitely a lot easier to manage, more opportunities for kids. But one of the big changes, you know, some people always say Fayetteville doesn't have 2 high schools because of athletics. And it's kind of true, but not for the reason people think, right? So if we did split, we would drop in classification, which means we would no longer play those large schools up here. And in fact, when you talk about the next classification down, there's only like 1 or 2 other schools in Northwest Arkansas in that next classification down. So that means our kids and our families would be having to travel quite a distance for games, and we'd be doing it for 2 of every team instead of just 1. So athletics does play a role in that. But it's not just because Fayetteville wants to be, you know, the best athletic program. That's really not it at all. So, but it does play into it. So that's just kind of current numbers. Our enrollment, kind of going back, our enrollment overall as a district has been relatively flat for about 6 or 7 years. People often find that odd, given that Northwest Arkansas is growing and Fayetteville is growing. And you know, the reason we believe that we are seeing that is twofold. Our geographical footprint, which is this next slide, is different than our neighbors to the north. If you go to Springdale, up above us, Bentonville, Rogers, most of those districts go quite a ways to the east. I'm sorry, to the west over here. But we have Farmington is its own district over here, where, you know, Taneytown is not its own district. It's part of Springdale, right? So that's a difference. The other thing that's unique about Fayetteville is while our population is growing, so is the university enrollment. And you guys know the demand for student housing, right? The university doesn't have enough housing for students. So students, as new housing come on, students consume a lot of that. And so we're not seeing additional K-12 students being yielded. That's actually a really positive thing for Fayetteville. Right, because we are primarily funded locally through local property tax. So it allows us to kind of do some things with our facilities and really invest in our teachers and our programs Because for the most part, we're gonna get the same revenue regardless of how many students we have. Where if we're climbing, we get a very small percentage of state revenue. If we have time, I'll talk more. Okay, but it's mostly local, about 85–90% from local property tax. So that's part of how we're able to do some of these facility things we're gonna talk about. What this map is an overlay of the school district boundaries in purple with the city of Fayetteville boundaries in black. We try to show this every time we present because people often think that they are one and the same, and they are not. Okay, you can live in the city of Fayetteville and be zoned for 4 different school districts. Okay, that's important. That's important to know. People don't realize that. Likewise, you can be in the Fayetteville School District and not be in the city limits because all this is outside of Fayetteville. All this over here is outside of Fayetteville and some of these parts down here. Okay, so our geographic footprint is about twice the size of the city of Fayetteville. So often, when we're doing some facility decisions around locations, sometimes people question, well, why that location? It's out on the edge of the city. This is where the new Woodland is going. And while it's on the edge of the city, it's central as far as east to west within our district boundaries, right? So it doesn't always align. We like to align as much as we can with the city, but there are some key differences. This is our current middle school attendance zone map. And I'm just trying to give you a little context here. We have 3 middle schools. 2 of them are currently on the west side of 49. So this says John O. Colbert. It's referring to that entire zone, but John O. Colbert's actually over here off of to the west of 49. And then we have one that's right over here off of Crossover Mission. So just right here at McNair. McNair is about twice the size of each of these 2 middle schools. And some of the work that we're doing right now is working to balance that. But what I want you to notice is this zone, we have 2 junior highs that these kids go to, and this is the junior high zones. So they're very different. So we have a scenario where kids go to middle school together, but then when it comes to junior high time, they split. Likewise, kids, we have a couple of elementaries, whereas they go up to middle school, the elementary students split and go different directions. Okay, so we are moving to a new feeder pattern model that addresses that. It creates pure feeder patterns where a specific group of elementaries then attend a specified middle school and junior high. And that's requiring us to add a 3rd junior high. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. Okay, so these new feeder patterns do several things for us. They help balance enrollment in our middle schools and junior highs. Not only total number of kids, but the demographic makeup of those schools. I'll come back to that. More equitable learning environments. So we'll end up with essentially 3 junior highs that are all basically new within the next few years. And so they'll all be similar in instructional spaces with a similar student makeup. I've already talked about the 3rd one. And then it kind of puts the schools, the middle schools and junior highs more centrally located amongst the families that they serve. So reducing drive time for families, gaining transportation efficiency, so on. So this is the new feeder pattern map that will go into effect August the 27th. So 1 year from this August, this will be the model. And what it does is it takes, we create a feeder pattern on the west side of 49, essentially, putting Holcomb and Owl Creek Elementary together. Those are our 2 largest elementaries. Both have about 600 kids per elementary. They'll feed into Holt Middle School, and then John O. Colbert become a junior high. That would be paired with Holt. Okay, and those 2 schools are located about 3 miles apart, straight down Rupel, 4-lane, north-south thoroughfare. One of the things we heard from parents was limit east-west travel the best that you can, because those are the challenging corridors. And so that went into play with all of that. Then when you come over here, east of 49, we kind of have a north-south division. And on the north side, you have Asbel, Butterfield, and Vandergrift elementaries that will feed into McNair Middle School and Woodland Junior High. And Woodland is being built right here at the corner of Joyce and Crossover. So if you don't normally get to this side of town, I would encourage you to hang a left up here at the stoplight drive on up to that intersection and you will see the new Woodland in process of being built. There's a lot of work going on. We'll talk more about that site in just a minute. But that's where Woodland will be. And I do want to point out that no matter, we're looking at about 7 or 8 different possible feeder pattern scenarios. And in every scenario, there was always an outlier of some sort because we're using buildings that already exist and are already located. So we had to weigh through the pros and cons of each of those scenarios. And this scenario is the one we landed on because of the demographic balance it provides in our district. But we fully acknowledge that in this scenario, the outlier is Asbell Elementary. It would be the furthest from the middle school junior high pairing. But this location actually puts the middle school and junior high closest to the highest number of families. And the highest number of families that tend to drive their kids to school. Okay, so we took all that into consideration as we were looking for locations, but you get the same thing about 3 miles apart, north-south on a 4-lane corridor. Okay. Then the current Woodland will become a middle school and will be paired with Ramey, which is currently located right over here near 49. And it will serve Root, Leverett, Washington, Happy Hollow. And you may say, well, why are there 4 schools here and only 2 over here? Remember, these are our 2 largest. Leverett and Washington are our 2 smallest. In fact, if we were to combine them, it would still be smaller than either Holcomb or Owl Creek. Okay, so that's why there's 4. But the site that we have for the new Ramey is located right off College in Poplar and right across the street from the current Woodlands. And again, it will be right in the middle of where most people live in this zone. Of note, the Leverett zone, the traditional Leverett zone, is of course where the university is, where the university's outside developers are buying up property and making apartments and student housing. So we don't have very many families and students that actually live here anymore. So junior high that's out here on the western edge, when most of the people live right in here, is not a great location for that. So we wanted to be more centrally located, and we looked for property kind of in this general area as the ideal site. And we needed at least 15 acres. And if you stayed up with the conversation around the new Ramey site, there's definitely a lot of feedback around that, emotions. One of the challenges of this site is it is 100%, say 100%, 87% tree covered. And it is up on the hillside, overlook area. So a lot of people are passionate about preserving that site. And I'll talk more about our approach to that. But at the end of the day, it was the only property available in this zone that made sense for the zone. And if not that property, we would be probably way out here to the east, outside the city limits, and creating a hardship on families. So that's the feeder pattern. And this is kind of another look of how they'll sit. So there's the junior high middle school pairing on the west, the central one, the east. You can see that follow that heat map of where our families live pretty well. Okay, and puts those schools more right in the middle of our families, which is what they said they wanted. Okay. This is just kind of a breakdown of the demographics. If we took our student enrollment today and applied that new feeder model, this is how the demographic breakout of the middle school junior high pairings would be. Of note, free reduced lunch, that's our poverty metric that we use in schools. So you can see our highest building would be 53%, our lowest building would be 43%, so basically a 10% spread. To put that in perspective, this year, our highest free reduced middle school is 67%, and our lowest is 23%. So that's a 44% spread. And then when you start looking at all the other subgroups, it's relatively balanced. We don't have that currently amongst our junior highs and middle schools. So what this does is it creates a situation where once kids get to middle school, they're gonna have a very similar experience no matter where they go to school in Fayetteville. It hopefully gets away from this haves and have-nots mentality that we've struggled with for many years here in Fayetteville. With neighborhood elementaries, there's no way to solve it. Okay, and I think our community values neighborhood elementaries, but this does give us an opportunity once we hit that middle school. So we're super excited about that. All right, so focus on the future. This is the big thing we have going right now. We are asking the voters on March 3rd to extend our current millage for 6 additional years. This is not an increase. We're not asking the voters to pay more. We're just asking to take what we currently have and extend it 6 years. Now, quick school finance. Let me make sure I'm good on time. All right, every school district in the state of Arkansas is required to have 25 mils of property tax that supports their education of the students. Beyond the 25 mil, that's up to the voter of the local school district. The voters can approve additional mils on top of the 25, but they don't have to. It's their discretion. The 25 mils is permanent. The additional mil has a sunset. Usually when voters approve it, it's typically for 30 years. Sunsets at the end of 30 years if no additional vote occurs. Now, what typically happens, and what we have a history of doing in Fayetteville, is going back to the voters every 4 to 6 years, asking for an extension of those additional mills. And that allows us to continue to support operating costs like we need to, as well as continue to do facility projects. So in Fayetteville, we have 20 additional mills on top of the 25. The generosity of our voters is that 20 additional mills, coupled with our growth in assessed value that we keep seeing, is what allows us to be one of the top paying school districts in the state of Arkansas and the region. Helps us retain and attract the best staff. And so it's extremely important that we keep those 20 mills in place. Over half the revenue generated from those 20 mills goes into salaries for our teachers and support staff. Okay, so that's probably the top reason for extending it. But then by extending it, it gives us additional bonding capacity to move projects that are within our 10-year facility plan. All right. So this last slide, if you go to our website, right up here, district@fayar.net at the very top, there'll be a link on that homepage that says explore more, something like that. You click on it, it takes you to this landing page. This landing page has all kinds of information about the different projects that are in place, the feeder pattern, and a variety of things that you can find here. So I would encourage you to go visit that page if you haven't. Some things that we have under construction, and I want to point out, these projects that are under construction are being funded from the 2020 millage extension that Fayetteville voters approved. Now, at the time that we went to the voters, we always project conservatively. The main projects at that time was the new John O. Colbert Middle School and the athletic academic building at Harmon Stadium at Fayetteville High campus. Those were the two primary projects, and then we had some smaller things that were wrapped into that. The bonding capacity ended up being much larger than projected because of our continued growth. So it opened the door to do some additional projects without having to go back and ask for an extension. So these first 3 are projects we're able to do without having to extend the millage. So the first one is the new Woodland Junior High School. We already talked about its location. Current Woodland campus, I think this is important because some people think we're no longer going to use the current Woodland campus, but the current Woodland campus will become the middle. So this is the property used to be an orchard, is my understanding, and a farm at one point. So we tried to embrace that in the design. This is a look due north from the north side. We're preserving the barn. I had someone tell me the other day, I was talking to them, they were asking a question about this project, and they said, you know, I'm just so sad that barn is gone. And I said, well, what do you mean? Because it's not supposed to be gone. And the reality is, I think they just thought that it was going to be torn down as part of the project. But we're actually converting it to an outdoor learning classroom. And there's this other little barn beside it that is less known. And we're converting that to a greenhouse that our students will use as part of this. So we're trying to embrace the whole farm thing. Okay, this is kind of just an overview of it. Part of this project is realigning joists. Okay, so right now you're going east, you go across that stoplight, you hang a sharp left, and it winds up and around a little narrow 2-lane road that can be dangerous, especially when trees are blowing and stuff like that. Anyone live out that way? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, all right, some of you do. All right, so with that, Joyce is going to be rerouted on the southern side of the property. And we'll go up and around and connect over here. There'll be a roundabout that if you live up in this area, you can go around and on up. And if you're just going to the east or from the east going west, you'll stay off of this little part here. Okay. When you connect into the stoplight, there will be 3 lanes now, a left turn, a straight, and a right turn lane that will extend for quite a distance. So for those that come in that way, it's going to be much improved. You can see the overall layout of the project. And then that's kind of a view from the northwest, looking back to the southeast. Both of our new buildings that are in progress, we tried to take a very environmentally friendly approach to design. And so we're looking at high efficiency buildings. We're using things like mass timber, lots of natural daylight. We're very excited to be the first well certified school building in the state of Arkansas and the first well certified junior high in the Midwest. So very excited about that. All right, John L. Colbert, I mentioned we're going to convert it to a junior high. And so this building, again, is basically brand new. It's in its 3rd year of existence. This was the part that was built over here to the left. So we're adding this part here, which will be locker rooms and athletic spaces on the lower level, science labs and classrooms on the upper level. And then when you go up over here, an additional secondary gymnasium and locker room spaces that you need for junior high. Okay, so that's the addition. So we're not going to do a lot there, but that's the difference you're going to see out there. Also, not in this picture, but to the south of the building will be a track and field space. Okay, parking deck. So parking, anyone have kids go to high school or did have kids? Okay, so you know parking is a challenge. So we are in the process of adding about 460 additional parking spaces there. That's slated to be done here not too long, probably about a year from now. That's kind of what that will look like if you're on Stadium Drive looking back towards the high school. Okay, those are the 3 that are in process. Under development is the design for the new Ramey Junior High. So we're currently working with architects on the design for this property. Of note, this building currently is slated to begin construction in 28 and be finished in 2030. However, if voters approve the millage extension this March, it allows us to move this project up 2 years and begin this summer. And that has a domino effect that we'll get to here in a second. But this would be the view from the building on the east side. Same approach that we took at Woodland. And then that would be the view from the west side. One certification, lead certification, but on this one, we're also doing site certification. If you're not familiar with sites, it's kind of like lead certification for the outside campus. And it's all about how good of an environmental steward you are during the construction process and after the construction process. And so knowing, that the site was very important to the people of Fayetteville, we want to have a small footprint as we can and be as environmentally friendly as we can through the entire process. So that's at the forefront of that project. And that's just an overview of kind of how that would work. The academic parts are going to be here. There would be a track and a field over here. That's just practice. There's no competition. So we're not going to have stadium lights or any of that kind of stuff. And then you can see the the lane that goes all the way around and connects down to college. Potentially, we might have a Nash Street connection that's still being worked through with planning and zoning. May or may not happen, just depends on if we feel like we can do it safely. All right, so some key things I already mentioned. So no tax increase. The current millage is in effect till 2050. Okay, so it's not like it's going away tomorrow. But a yes vote would extend it to 2056. And that 6-year extension gives us enough additional bonding capacity to move everything up 2 years. Down here, I kind of already mentioned this, 2 things that this does for us. Supports the implementation of our 10-year master facility plan. It's not just about the new Ramey. And with retaining our employees, attracting and retaining top employees. So I do want to summarize our 10-year master facility plan. So this is the first 3 are in the works, being funded off of the 2020 millage extension. If the March 3rd, we get a yes vote, we'll be able to start this one summer of 26. Open in 28. Why that's important is it would allow the new Ramey to open just 1 year after the new Woodland instead of 3 years. Okay, so that reduces the amount of time families have to drive all the way across town, fight MLK traffic and all of those kinds of things. Then the current Ramey will become a magnet high school. I told you I was going to talk about that, right? It's going to become a magnet high school, not a second traditional high school, but a magnet high school. So kind of think Don Tyson School of Innovation in Springdale. So this will be an optional choice for kids who want it. It'll serve about 800 kids. And it will have specified pathways that students can do a deep dive in. We did a big community engagement process this fall. We shared the results with our board in January. We're going to be bringing a recommendation to them this month in February of what pathways we recommend having there. And then hopefully our board will approve this summer, this spring, the pathways. And then we're going to spend the next 2 years designing the instructional programming and the renovation of the Ramey campus to align with the instructional programming, okay, while the new Ramey is being built. In case you're wondering, the top vote getters are pathways in the skilled trades, pre-architecture, pre-engineering, and skilled trades. That was the top vote getter. The second one was medical careers. Third was early college. And then after that, it gets a little tighter, but STEM and fine arts are right in there for 4 and 5. If you paid attention to any of the workforce need reports for Fayetteville, Northwest Arkansas, medical careers and skilled trades are right up there in the top. Okay, so you know this will hopefully be a direct pipeline into our workforce needs and getting kids that are even going to college an early start on their careers in those fields. So that's what we're talking about, the magnet high school. That's a broad discussion that we're probably for right now, but the sooner we start the Ramey project, the sooner we can bring the magnet high school on. They're all tied together. And then as you look at our plan, once we are able to do the magnet high school, the other thing is a future elementary school. As the college expands, more student housing is centrally located. Families are pushing out. So we've recognized the need to maybe have an elementary that's more where the families are. And we have a location that we're exploring on that right now. Again, several years out, but that would be the next step. Again, all these things rely on one another happening. So that's why we believe extending this March is what's best for the district, because then we can get started earlier. So just a quick summary, and we have 1 minute. Okay. Do we have time to take a question or two? Yes, sir.
So you said there's 25 plus the 20.
Yes.
How does that compare to Springdale or Steiner's Bend?
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I do not have their mills, but there are several districts up here that have higher millage rates than us. Alan says Bentonville is 48. So they're 3 mills higher than us. We actually rolled ours back about a half a mill about 2 years ago. So it was 45.58 or something like that. So it's actually less than it was. But I think that's a great question. So we're not the highest, we're not the lowest. But we do have the benefit here at Fayetteville of having one of the highest assessed valuations. So it allows us to do these types of things. Yes, sir.
Going for salary improvement And teachers.
Correct, primarily teachers and staff.
First, it's administration.
Yeah, so ours go together. So our administrators' salaries are based off of the teacher's scale, actually, and where they fall on the teacher scale. And then they have a ratio that then gets applied to that and all that's on the website. But each year we give raises, whatever our administrators raises are based on what we do for teachers, so they're all directly linked. I don't have the ratio, like if you were to break it out and say this percent of our budget is one or the other, I've had that, I can get that for you. The overall percent of the budget is around 80% goes to salaries of our total budget. So that's the bulk of our expense. All right.
All right.
In the meantime, when it's your turn to have a rampaging Razorback on a rotary wheel, I hope you display it proudly in the school. Thank you so much. Now, this gentleman, this doctor is with us. We're gonna do it more in summer months. Yeah. And now you have much to ask him, you're sitting and eating with him. So thank you so much for being a member of this club and your contribution to it. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Seconds for a quick announcement.
Hi, I'm a member of the League of Women Voters, and the league is having a forum this coming Wednesday and Thursday for the candidates in the nonpartisan judicial election. It'll be at the Walker Conference Room at the Fayetteville Public Library on February 11th at 5:30 to 7:30. Second forum on February the 12th, the same place at the same time. So please come out and hassle your elected candidates.
Thank you. Thank you for
Your attendance today, and this meeting is adjourned.
Yes, another good online meeting. We'll see everybody next week. Take care.
Okay, bye. Thank you.
See you, Cheryl.